Hi students, this is Mr. Ward. I'm going to be reading for you The Opulence in the Gilded Age, 1890 by Ward McAllister on the class website. I'm going to read it for you, and then I'm going to go through my text-to-text, text-to-self, and then text-to-world connections. Follow along with me on the website if that's where you are, or follow along on your handout. Opulence in the Gilded Age. A man of wealth, who had accumulated a fortune here, resolved to give New Yorkers a sensation, to give them a banquet which should exceed in luxury and expense anything before seen in this country. As he expressed it, I knew it would be a folly, a piece of unheard-of extravagance, but as the United States government had just refunded me $10,000, exacted from me for duties upon importations, which, being excessive, I had petitioned to be returned to me, and had quite unexpectedly received this sum back, I resolved to appropriate it to giving a banquet that would always be remembered. Accordingly, he went to Charles Delmonico, who, in turn, went to his Cuisine Classique to see how they could possibly spend this sum on his feast. Success crowned their efforts. The sum in such skilled hands soon melted away, and a banquet was given of such beauty and magnificence that even New Yorkers, accustomed as they were to every species of novel expenditure, were astonished at its lavishness, its luxury. The banquet was given at Delmonico's in 14th Street. There were 72 guests in the large ballroom looking on Fifth Avenue. The table covered the whole length and breadth of the room, only leaving a passageway for the waiters to pass around it. It was a long, extended, oval table, and every inch of it was covered with flowers, excepting a space in the center, left for a lake and a border around the table for the plates. This lake was indeed a work of art. It was an oval pond, 30 feet in length by nearly the width of the table, enclosed by a delicate golden wire network reaching from table to ceiling, making the whole one grand cage. 4 superb swans brought from Prospect Park swam in it, surrounded by high banks of flowers of every species and variety, which prevented them from splashing the water on the table. There were hills and dales, the modest little violet carpeting the valleys, and other bolder sorts climbing up and covering the tops of those miniature mountains. Then, all around the enclosure, and in fact above the entire table, hung little golden cages with fine songsters, who filled the room with their melody, and occasionally interrupted by the splashing of the waters of the lake by the swans and the cooing of those noble birds, and at one time by a fierce combat between these stately, graceful, gliding white creatures. The surface of the whole table, by clever art, was one unbroken series of undulations, rising and falling like the billows of the sea, but all clothed and carpeted with every form of blossom. It seemed like the abode of fairies, and when surrounded, this fair land, with lovely young American womanhood, you had indeed an unequalled scene of enchantment. But this was not to be alone a feast for the eye. All that art could do, all that the cleverest men could devise to spread before the guests such a feast as the gods should enjoy, was done. So well done that all present felt, in the way of feasting, that man could do no more. The wines were perfect, then soft music stole over one's senses, lovely women's eyes sparkled with delight at the beauty of their surroundings, and I felt that the fair being who sat next to me would have graced Alexander's feast. So that's Opulence in the Gilded Age, 1890 by Ward McAllister. My text-to-text connection with this text is between that and A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, because Christmas Carol, while it's all about Christmas and ghosts and whatnot, it's also showing it's showing Scrooge's, this rich man's, moral character, as that he's a penny pincher, that he doesn't want to give to the poor, and that these rich people of this New York City banquet don't care about the poor, don't care about what they spend their money on. They don't think anything about the fact that this $10,000, which back in 1890 was a lot of money, is being spent on this feast. My text-to-self connection was that in connection with this death, that we previously read Death of a Child in class, and which is also linked here on the website in the text set section, so if you want to go back and look at that, you can. But in connection with Death of a Child, we have this opulence in the Gilded Age, and I personally had to live in a car rather than in a home. I had no other place to live, and so I've had to live harshly before, as opposed to living in this opulent lifestyle, and people nowadays live like this, and the contrasting lifestyles then and now is similar, which connects to the text to world in that not a lot has changed. There's still that gap between the rich and the poor. Still the poor have a hard time getting basic medical care. Still the rich flaunt their money and use their money on lavish parties, while the rest languish in squalor. So not a lot has changed in some areas. So those are my text-to-text, text-to-self, text-to-world connections. There is your reading of the Opulence in the Gilded Age. If you have any questions, email me from the homepage. On the homepage is my email. Thank you.